Retired judge and former Indiana State Senator Bill Alexa is with us today. Let's talk with him about his experiences next on Lakeshore Focus. Running a business requires smart decisions every day. Make a good decision for your company today and reach other businesses by sponsoring Lakeshore Focus. People who watch our show are an active part of the community. They care about their neighborhoods, schools, and their homes. Are these viewers your customers? Well, they should be. To learn about all the benefits of sponsoring Lakeshore Focus, give us a call at 219-756-5656. And instead of seeing my face, you can see your business. Welcome again to Lakeshore Focus, a weekly show highlighting the key issues, important events, and interesting people in our region. I'm Keith Kirkpatrick. From time to time, I schedule interviews with area key leaders who have had intriguing journeys through their life. It's a time to listen to their observations, insights, and wisdom. Today's guest falls into that category. He has served in many capacities in his life, most recently as a Superior Court judge in Porter County, and as a former Indiana State Senator. Let's start our conversation with Bill Alexa. So after all those important titles, Bill, what am I supposed to call you now?
Bill is just fine.
And you've always kind of been Bill to a lot of people, haven't you?
I have. I don't go with the titles very often. I'm just an ordinary person who's doing something a little different.
So you were on the bench how long?
I was on the bench for 15 years.
Wow, and then state senator?
15 years.
And your previous life for 15 years?
For 15 years, actually a little longer than that. But I was also a deputy and chief deputy prosecuting attorney in the 70s. That's where it started. So
you've kind of been in multiple roles. You've been in the legislative, you've been in the judicial, and you've been a public servant.
And the executive, that's just what the prosecutor is.
Well, there you go. Mm-hmm. So you've seen all sides of this.
I have.
Wow. So, as a judge, what was the most difficult part of being a judge for you?
I think the most difficult part for me was to pay very close attention to a hearing, or particularly to a jury trial, and to make sure that I received all of the information that was put forth. That was difficult. And then after that, writing an opinion or an order on it. It was time-consuming, and I had staff who were fantastic, a court reporter who could reproduce anything that happened. But that was the most difficult, I think, actually.
So you're telling me, when we see these pictures of judges who look like they're so thoughtful and listening so closely to the jury, you have a tendency, or they have a tendency to think, I wonder what we're having for dinner tonight, or, I wonder if my car will start in the morning.
No, I've never gone quite like that. But sometimes it can become a little bit, I don't want to say boring, but boring. It depends on how the attorneys handle the case, how the witnesses respond. And of course, you're watching the witnesses. One of the ways that you can judge what a person is saying, whether it's a truth or a false, is by watching their mannerisms and watching what they do and listen to the way they say things out of the witness stand.
I never thought about that before. I often share with people, what it's like to be the host of this show. And I said, when you're doing the interview, it's all your energy and focus has to be on the guest and what you're talking about. I never thought about that before, but a judge has that same challenge. Every bit of your energy has to be focused on that trial or what's going on in your courtroom.
But that's part of the difficulty that I mentioned earlier. Not only that, you have two attorneys on opposite sides out there who are doing different things, and you're checking to make sure that no one's coaching a witness while they're up there or making funny signs at them, because that happens sometimes, not often, but that's the kind of thing that you're looking for.
Yeah, there is a lot of similarity, because I tell people, I got to watch all the cues and see all the stuff going on in the background, plus focus here. But I only have to do this for a half hour. You often would have to do that for 6-7 hours in a day.
And possibly for the whole week, depending on how long a trial would go.
So I have a higher admiration for people on the bench at this point. So that's pretty amazing. In the time that you were on the bench, is there one case, and maybe you can't talk about it in any specifics, I don't want you to, but just really was a tough one to do, or one that just really was just kind of pulled at who you are? And
That's a good question, actually. The cases that drew that kind of a response to the question would be criminal cases. You're in a case, you're shepherding a trial where someone has to be proved guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, and you always have something in your mind: what's happening here? Is it a fair trial? Is it this? And that's what we try to do. The cases, every one of them, but the really difficult ones were child molestation cases. And of course, we've had a plethora of those in the past, 2 or 3 years. And those were the most difficult, actually.
I don't even have to ask you why, because I think that's pretty apparent why those would be very disturbing, because I think we hear those kind of things going on today, and it's still very, very disturbing.
But perhaps just with a little different perspective. A prosecutor determines which cases he will or will not, or she will or will not file. And they're supposed to look at the evidence and determine that, yes, they have enough evidence, and file the case. And then, if they don't have enough evidence, they file it anyway sometimes. And it's a case that maybe shouldn't have been filed. You're putting a family or a defendant through a tremendous strain for the time of the charge all the way to the end of the trial. And I've had several of those where a jury came back not guilty after 5 minutes or 10 minutes of deliberations. Those are very disconcerting.
Was there a time, I'm going to keep focused on the bench here a little bit,
Sure.
but was there a time that you felt like that your role, kind of like you had the wisdom of Solomon, and that you just, what you said or did just really felt profound, or what you did really helped reach a conclusion to a case?
My wife would tell you that she thinks that I think that way all the time, but it's not true.
Wives are kind of like that, right? I think sometimes.
Well, they are.
Spouses.
Well, yeah, you get home and she says, "Look, mister, you're not on that bench anymore." Okay.
Well, before we get back to that question, I was going to ask you about your wife anyway, because you've got this name Alexa, which now has become so popular. Do you hear Joyce every once in a while say Alexa, and then she asks you a question and she expects an answer?
I'm not geared to answer that question.
So back to the wisdom of Solomon. Did you ever feel you had that moment where it's just like, wow, what came out of my mouth was pretty profound?
No.
Never?
Never.
Did you feel like you had a case where you really made a difference in what you were doing and just how you helped shape it?
Yes. I think you can almost just about say that on every case that comes up. It depends on what your rulings are out there to a degree, to an objection or to something like that. And that can have a bearing on how the outcome of the case will be. But I don't see anything profound with that. But it does influence what happens in the courtroom and in the case.
If there were a couple of things that you would like to give as a message to the general public about behavior in court, or these things are real important to do when you're in court, or these are the things please do not ever do in court, what would a couple of those be?
Don't ever stand up and holler. Don't ever stand up and give the judge or anyone in the courtroom one of the nasty finger flicks or anything like that, because we've had that happen. And to just show respect, maybe not for the judge, for the office that judge represents. And the whole system is geared to that, the judicial system. There's a reason that the bench sits higher than the rest of the courtroom. There's a reason that there are flags on either side of the judge's bench. There's a reason that the court's announced when it begins its daily session. Everybody rise and what have you. It's all about the image that court is supposed to engender in the people who come before it. And it's kind of a good feeling to know that you're a part of that system.
Do you think that the general public has lost that respect and for the court over the years?
I think it's less than it was when I started 15 years ago, actually. I'm not sure what the reason is for it. I think that the news media and what's happening all across this country, not just here in Porter and Lake, Northwest Indiana, and I think that that's true. And some of the things that have happened that involve judges are not exactly what should happen, but those are few and far between, thankfully.
So you've kind of made a nice transition to just what's your kind of take on the whole temperament of the country at the moment around all kinds of issues. I guess it's hard to say it's just politics. It just seems like it's a lot of issues going on in the country.
I think that's very true, and I think it's an angry mood, and I think that's the base that is moving people at this point. No tolerance for someone else's opinion. The thing, we have more than 50%, so we're right and you go to the devil, and that's just not the way our system is supposed to be run. I mean, you talked about the Constitution earlier, not in a promo, but the Pledge Allegiance to the flag starts out, Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, in this word, and to the republic for which it stands. People forget that. They say we're a democratic democracy. Well, we are, but we're a republic. And the republic means that the people with more votes pay attention to the people who didn't have enough votes to do it, and they consider their opinions in doing it. And I think we're losing that, frankly.
Seems to be, you're right, that seems to be lost. So why do you think people are so angry?
I'm not sure about that. I think that some of the hyperbole that is on TV, I think that some of the way people act, and it's highlighted on TV, and I think that's all part of it. I'm not certain why people are acting that way. They're irritated with the way things are going, and that can be with the Congress, with a General Assembly, a county council. It could be with any part of it.
So when you were a state senator, part of the General Assembly in Indiana, you had a lot of experience down there. If you kind of look at what's going on over the past few years, I mean, how do you kind of assess the effectiveness of or the role that group takes?
When I started there, it would have been in 1988, and I ran for office at that point because I saw all of the children in the community, not all, but the children not coming back. And so the theme was, why aren't they coming back? Let's do something to bring them back. And we moved on to 92, the next election, and Joyce, my wife, and I said, why are we doing this? What's the reason for it? Very simple. We wanted to make a difference, and that was our theme from 1992 on. And we did that. When I started there in 88, there were 26 Republicans in the Senate and 24 Democrats. And it was one of the best experience that I've ever had, because you had to work together. You plain had to if you wanted to get anything passed. And it worked very well. By the time I was ready to leave in 02, that had changed. And the change meant that there were 20 Democrats and 30 Republicans. And then you could see the trend in what was happening. And there was a time coming, I thought, that we wouldn't have to even have Democrats come. They could have the session by themselves. And of course, they could do that now. And that disturbed me quite a little bit. And
I've heard Senator Rogers talk about that same thing when I had her on. She was saying things used to work better. People used to get along better. We used to listen, as you said, to the other side. So can we get back to that, you think?
I think we can, but it's not going to be done easily. I think the stem cause of that is redistricting and redrawing maps every 10 years. The party that's in charge, and it doesn't matter, Democrats or Republicans, draw the maps to suit their needs as a caucus and also for the individuals in there. I remember the first redistricting that I was in was in 1990, and we had a computer there, and the computer had a mouse with it, a screen, and there was the map of the state of Indiana. And you could pick out your district, and mine it was the 5th district, click on it, and then you could take that mouse and trace the line. And as you changed it, it told you how many Democrats, Republicans, and Independents were in that district. Now that's the way that redistricting was done, still is. The way that you can change what we started out with is to change the way that the districts are set up and take it away from the legislative branch and put it into a commission with the appropriate membership and let them do the redistricting in a fair and impartial way so that we can get back to the Pledge of Allegiance and talking about a republic.
Yeah, I had never heard that explanation of how that redistricting, so all of us who are on computers and who've moved the mouse around and watched the data change, now I get that, so you're saying it's also just so simple to do. Let me ask you this, kind of similar to being on the bench in the legislature, what piece of legislation or something you participated in, you look back and say, I'm just really proud of, I'm really happy I was part of this law or something we did in the legislature?
There were so many, there really were so many. Some generated from within the district, one of which was what they're calling the anti-SLAPP legislation. That was out for a purpose, and they tried to distort it a little bit since. But
so what's that, the anti-SLAPP, what is that?
It'd be used, let's just pick an example here. In St. Joe County, because that's really part of what it was. The county was building a new jail out on a woman's farm, and they had a battle over hearings and what have you. And they just kept taking her to court, taking her to court. They had all the resources in the world, like a huge corporation would come in and kind of nickel and dime you to death. And they'd win that way. And we stopped that with that legislation, put them on a more equal footing.
Was there one issue that you felt like you never got closure on when you were there?
Oh, there were quite a few.
Is there one that still just bugs you today?
No, not today. I've gotten over that some time back. There's nothing I can really do about that. Now, I did have something happen in the courtroom that was, at least to me, it was interesting. I had a case going. There were 2 attorneys. The one attorney's talking about a law the General Assembly had passed. And he says that the intent of the legislator when they did this particular bill was this. And the other one says, no, it was this. I said, stop. I says, if you look at that, I'm the author of the bill, and I'll tell you what I meant. That happened twice in 15 years. That's it.
That must have been a little unusual, but
that was very unusual.
It felt a little gratifying, probably, right?
Very, as a matter of fact.
Yeah. So, what do you think that Indiana still needs to do today? I mean, what is that issue that the legislature still continues to slide over, gloss over, not deal with, that we really should be doing something about?
Top of my list is redistricting, actually.
Okay. But since we talked about that, what's kind of that second item, maybe? I know there's probably a list.
Oh, there is. It's a long list. I don't even want to start because we could just go down to everything that never comes out of committee.
Is there just one, though, that sticks out? What's the first one that comes to your mind?
I really can't pick one out. They're all on the same footing.
Well, what does that mean when we have so many then? I mean, you're like, wow, the list is so big, it's hard to pick one out. What does that say about our legislature?
It says that they're going to get through the legislation that each chamber wants. And that's done through the committee system. If a bill is assigned to committee, it's got a chance to come out the rest of the way. If it's never assigned to a committee, that thing is just gone by the wayside.
Well,
And if it comes out of the committee and it's a pass vote for it, it comes out on the floor, it's likely to pass the entire body. So you have to talk to the committee chairman to do that.
so we're down to just a couple minutes here. Just if you reflect back upon your entire career, just a piece of something you've learned that you just felt like this is a piece of wisdom. I mean, you know, through life, I've kind of learned this.
Well, don't take yourself too seriously. Just go out there and do your job, whatever it is, and have the support of your family, particularly your wife. She ran all of my campaigns, by the way. But there were just so many of those, too. It really was. But they were personal things that she and I just kind of kept. We weren't out for publicity, or you didn't see a whole lot of me doing a lot of things, but we were.
Well, I know your wife, and I know she's a formidable force, that's for sure.
Oh, yeah.
So I saved my best question to last, down here at the last couple seconds. So I think everybody really wants to know, what do judges really wear under those gowns?
That's a good question. And this is the part I really enjoy. After a jury trial, particularly a criminal trial, I go in and talk to the jurors afterward. And they're pretty down in the dumps. I mean, they've made a decision that, oh my gosh, you know, somebody's going to jail, somebody, whatever it might be. And they're feeling bad. So I asked them, you know, what did you think about this? And finally I says, I have the answer to the question that you all want. And I grab the zipper and rip that thing down and throw it open. And they go wild. And they go home happier people than they would have walked out of there without that. So I wear what I'm wearing now, basically.
So,
and if I wore it differently, I wouldn't tell you.
You've always kept your sense of humor, and I appreciate that about you. Thanks for being on the show and sharing your thoughts. It means a lot.
Thank you for having me.
You bet. There is much criticism today of people in government, whether elected, appointed, or hired. It's as if a career in public service is not valued. The worlds of business and nonprofit are viewed as more important. Some think that the people in businesses and nonprofits, specifically our faith-based organizations, can solve all of our problems. This might lead one to believe those workers and leaders are more important than those in the public sector. Let's focus on public service, since it seems to have a bad reputation at the moment. As I was growing up, public service was considered a noble calling, as respected as any other. At times, it was even at the top of the respect ladder. Those who sought a career in government were looking at employment which had opportunities to learn and advance. One was expected to serve an important function or provide a vital service for the good of the community and the citizenry at large. A public servant would have a direct line supervisor, but would also have the challenge of working for the toughest boss ever, taxpayers. That diverse reservoir of people with vastly different expectations, demands, and needs. Yes, I know there are and were people who took government jobs because it was conveniently offered, looked easy, or required little. To some, it was just a job. The public servants who truly serve the public do not have those attitudes or perceptions. They want to address social problems, face community challenges, provide needed services, and help society function better. Today, some of these people are under attack just because their paycheck comes from public funds. Some of our best and brightest are choosing not to pursue a career in government service, but we need those types. Why then should someone follow a path into public sector employment? I can think of no nobler cause than what is presented in the preamble to the U.S. Constitution: to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty. As my good friend Michael Griffin would say, that is the mission statement for our country. We need excellent people in government to serve this lofty purpose. I can think of no greater calling than to serve those who live in and share our communities. We appreciate every time you watch us on Lakeshore PBS. Your comments about any of our interviews on Lakeshore Focus are helpful. You can send your thoughts through the website or via email, both listed on your screen right now. If you can't find a previously aired show on our website for some reason, go to YouTube. Type Lakeshore Focus plus a guest name or topic, and there it is. Be sure and join us again next week for another Lakeshore Focus. Until then, I'm Keith Kirkpatrick saying, make a positive difference in our world today. Running a business requires smart decisions every day. Make a good decision for your company today and reach other businesses by sponsoring Lakeshore Focus. People who watch our show are an active part of the community. They care about their neighborhoods, schools, and their homes. Are these viewers your customers? Well, they should be. To learn about all the benefits of sponsoring Lakeshore Focus, give us a call at 219-756-5656. And instead of seeing my face, you can see your business.